In the distant reaches of space, the Starship Endeavour patrolled the edge of human-explored territory. Captain Meredith Hayes, a seasoned explorer with a reputation for boldness, stood on the bridge, staring at the view screen displaying a vast expanse of stars. The crew was on high alert, their senses tuned to the slightest anomaly. "Captain, we're picking up an anomalous signal," reported Lieutenant Kareem, the communications officer. His voice was steady but carried a hint of excitement. Hayes leaned forward. "Can you pinpoint its source?" Kareem's fingers danced over his console. "Yes, ma'am. It's coming from a sector just beyond our mapped space. The signal is strong, and it appears to be an SOS." "An SOS? Out here?" Hayes frowned. "Prepare to investigate. Helm, set a course." As the Endeavour approached the signal's coordinates, the anomaly became clearer. A derelict alien ship drifted in the void, its design unlike anything the crew had seen before. Its hull was covered in ancient runes, glowing faintly against the backdrop of space. "Bring us in closer," Hayes ordered, her curiosity piqued, "and prepare a boarding party. I want to know what we're dealing with." The Endeavour moved into position, and the boarding team, led by Lieutenant Commander Sarah Donovan, suited up. They boarded the alien vessel cautiously, their lights cutting through the darkness of the ship's interior. The air was stale, and the silence oppressive. "Captain, we found something," Donovan's voice crackled over the comm. "It's a chamber filled with strange equipment, and there's an artifact in the center, pulsating with energy." "Secure the artifact and return to the ship," Hayes instructed, feeling a mix of anticipation and unease. The team carefully retrieved the artifact, a small crystalline object that seemed to hum with a life of its own. Back on the Endeavour, Dr. Isaac Thorne, the ship's leading scientist, eagerly awaited their return. Dr. Isaac Thorne couldn't contain his excitement as the boarding team brought the artifact into the lab. The crystalline object, now securely placed on a diagnostic table, pulsated with a mesmerizing rhythmic glow. "This is incredible," Thorne muttered, his eyes wide with wonder. "I've never seen anything like it." Captain Hayes entered the lab, her gaze fixed on the artifact. "What do you make of it, Doctor?" Thorne glanced up, his face illuminated by the artifact's glow. "It's a power source, Captain, but not like anything we've encountered before. The energy readings are off the charts, and it's emitting a type of radiation I've never seen." Hayes nodded, her curiosity deepening. "Can you determine its origin?" "I'm working on it," Thorne replied, already engrossed in his analysis. "But I can tell you this much. Whatever this is, it's incredibly advanced, possibly thousands of years old." Despite the warnings from his initial scans, Thorne's fascination with the artifact grew. He spent hours studying its properties, running test after test. One evening, driven by an insatiable curiosity, he decided to activate the artifact. "Doctor, are you sure this is wise?" Lieutenant Donovan asked, her tone cautious. She had been observing Thorne's work and shared his intrigue but was wary of the unknown. Thorne hesitated for a moment, but then nodded. "We need to understand what we're dealing with, and this might be the key to unlocking its secrets." With a deep breath, Thorne initiated the activation sequence. The artifact's glow intensified, and a hum filled the room, growing louder and more resonant. Suddenly, a burst of energy surged from the artifact, flooding the lab with light and enveloping the ship. Alarms blared throughout the Endeavour, and the crew scrambled to their stations. Captain Hayes rushed to the lab, finding Thorne and Donovan stunned, but unharmed, bathed in the artifact's radiant glow. "Report!" Hayes demanded, her voice cutting through the chaos. "The artifact, it's activated," Thorne stammered. "The energy, it's beyond anything we could have imagined." As the initial shock subsided, the crew realized that the energy from the artifact had integrated with the ship's systems, enhancing their capabilities in ways they couldn't fully comprehend yet. But the power surge had also sent a signal, a beacon that traveled across the galaxy, reaching far beyond human space. Unbeknownst to them, the activation of the artifact had awakened an ancient and powerful alien empire, the Salvatorians, who now saw humanity's discovery as a dire threat to their dominion. Suddenly, a tremor ran through the great hall. A low hum resonated, growing in intensity. The imperial advisors, clad in ornate robes, exchanged uneasy glances. Zorath's attention snapped to the source of the disturbance, a massive crystalline sphere hovering in the center of the room, an ancient relic known as the Orb of Vigilance. It had been dormant for centuries, a silent guardian of the Empire's secrets. The orb flared to life, projecting a swirling mass of energy into the air. Symbols and runes danced within the light, coalescing into a coherent image, the unmistakable shape of the human starship Endeavor and the activated artifact. "Impossible," Zorath hissed, rising from his throne. His voice was a deadly whisper that carried through the hall. "The artifact has been awakened." His chief advisor, a gaunt figure named Tarlac, stepped forward. "Your Excellency, this cannot be a coincidence. The humans have somehow discovered and activated the ancient power source. This could threaten our very existence." Zorath's eyes narrowed. "Dispatch the fleet. Track the signal to its source. This affront cannot go unpunished. Humanity must be reminded of its place." Within hours, the Salvatorian war machine roared to life. Sleek dark ships with deadly weaponry mobilized, their engines burning with the fury of an empire awakened. Leading the charge was Admiral Calros, a fearsome strategist renowned for his unrelenting pursuit of victory. "We will crush them," Calros vowed, his voice echoing through the command ship's bridge. "No one challenges the Salvatorian Empire and lives." The Endeavor was still recovering from the shock of the artifact's activation when the proximity alarms blared. Captain Hayes, now fully alert, stared at the view screen as multiple unidentified vessels appeared on the edge of their sensor range. "Captain, we're being approached by a fleet of unknown origin," Lieutenant Karim reported, his fingers flying over the controls. "They're not responding to hails, and their weapons are hot." Hayes clenched her jaw. "Prepare for evasive maneuvers. All hands to battle stations." The Endeavor's crew moved with practiced precision, their training kicking in as the ship's defenses powered up. The alien ships closed in rapidly, and the Endeavor's sensors finally identified them. "Captain, these ships match the description of the Salvatorian Empire," said Ensign Liu, the tactical officer. "They're notorious for their aggression and technological superiority." Hayes felt a chill run down her spine. "Open a channel, all frequencies. We need to try and communicate." "This is Captain Meredith Hayes of the United Earth Starship Endeavor," she began, her voice steady but firm. "We mean no harm. We are explorers and scientists." The response was immediate and hostile. A barrage of energy blasts erupted from the lead Salvatorian ship, slamming into the Endeavor's shields. The ship rocked violently, and the lights flickered. "Shields holding at 60%, Liu reported. "They're not interested in talking." "Return fire," Hayes ordered. "Let's show them what we're made of." The Endeavor's weapons sprang to life, lashing out at the Salvatorian attackers. The artifact, still integrated with the ship's systems, amplified their energy output, allowing them to deliver devastating counterattacks. The first Salvatorian ship exploded in a fiery blaze, but more quickly filled the gap. "We're outnumbered," Lieutenant Donovan called out from her station. "We can't hold them off forever." Realizing the dire situation, Hayes made a snap decision. "Prepare for an emergency jump. We'll use the artifact to power it." "But Captain, we don't know if it can handle another jump," Thorne protested, his voice filled with concern. "We don't have a choice," Hayes replied grimly. "Initiate the sequence." The Endeavor's engines roared as the artifact's energy coursed through them. Space seemed to warp around the ship as it prepared to leap into the unknown. Just as the Salvatorian fleet closed in for the kill, the Endeavor vanished in a blinding flash of light, leaving their pursuers behind. When the ship re-emerged from the jump, the crew found themselves in uncharted territory, surrounded by unfamiliar stars. The Endeavor was battered but intact. Hayes took a deep breath, trying to steady her nerves. "Damage report," she commanded. "Significant damage to our shields and hull," Donovan replied. "But we're alive, for now." Hayes nodded. "Good. Now let's figure out where we are and how to get back home." The Endeavor emerged from the emergency jump into a region of space uncharted by human explorers. The ship was badly damaged, with flickering lights and sparking consoles indicating the toll the battle and jump had taken. Captain Hayes surveyed the bridge, her crew working frantically to assess the damage. "Report," she commanded, her voice cutting through the chaos. Lieutenant Donovan, sweat dripping from her brow, glanced up from her console. We've sustained heavy damage to our shields and hull integrity. Several systems are offline, and our power reserves are critically low. Hayes nodded, processing the information. Prioritize repairs to life support and navigation. We need to figure out where we are and how to get back to known space. Dr. Thorne, still reeling from the artifact's effects, approached Hayes. Captain, the artifact. It's drained a significant amount of its energy. We won't be able to use it for another jump anytime soon. Understood, Hayes replied, her mind racing with possibilities. We need to find a safe harbor to make repairs and replenish our resources. Scan the area for any habitable planets or friendly vessels. As the crew worked, the Endeavour drifted through the void, its sensors sweeping the unfamiliar star systems. Hours passed before Ensign Liu, the tactical officer, called out, "Captain, I'm picking up a faint signal. It appears to be coming from a nearby asteroid field. It's not human, but it's not Salvatorian either." Hayes's interest piqued. "Can you identify the source?" Liu shook his head. "Negative, but it seems to be a distress signal. It could be someone in need or an opportunity for us." "Set a course for the signal," Hayes ordered, "but proceed with caution. We can't afford any more surprises." As the Endeavour approached the asteroid field, the signal grew stronger. The ship maneuvered carefully through the rocky debris, eventually coming upon a small, heavily damaged vessel. Its design was sleek and unfamiliar, with scorch marks indicating a recent battle. "Prepare a boarding party," Hayes instructed. "Lieutenant Donovan, take a team and see if there's anyone on board, and be careful." Donovan and her team suited up and made their way to the alien ship. They entered through a breached airlock, their lights piercing the darkness. The interior was eerily silent, with signs of struggle evident everywhere. "Captain, we found survivors," Donovan reported. "They're weak but alive. We're bringing them back to the Endeavour." Among the survivors was a tall, slender alien with silvery skin and luminescent eyes. As they regained consciousness in the Endeavour's medbay, they introduced themselves as Aaron, a member of the Lyran resistance. Aaron, though weak, exuded a quiet strength. Their luminescent eyes scanned the faces of the Endeavour's crew with a mixture of gratitude and wariness. "Thank you for rescuing us," Aaron began, their voice melodic yet filled with weariness. "We are Lyrans, rebels against the Salvatorian Empire. We were ambushed while on a mission." Captain Hayes leaned forward, intrigued. "Rebels, you say? Tell us more. We could use allies in our current predicament." Aaron nodded slowly, taking a moment to gather their thoughts. "The Salvatorians have oppressed countless civilizations for centuries. My people, the Lyrans, have been fighting back in the shadows. We sabotage their operations, gather intelligence, and protect those who cannot defend themselves. Our base is not far from here." Hayes exchanged a glance with Dr. Thorne and Lieutenant Donovan. This could be the opportunity they needed. "Can you take us to your base? Our ship is in desperate need of repairs, and we have information that could be valuable to your cause." Aaron hesitated, clearly weighing the risks. Finally, they nodded. "Yes, but we must move quickly. The Salvatorians will be searching for us." The Endeavour followed Aaron's directions, navigating through a series of narrow passages within the asteroid field. Eventually, they emerged into a hidden enclave, a hollowed-out asteroid teeming with activity. Sleek Lyran ships buzzed around, and makeshift structures housed workshops and living quarters. The crew of the Endeavour was greeted by a group of Lyran rebels, their leader stepping forward to meet them. She was a tall, imposing figure with eyes that glowed a fierce green. "Welcome to our sanctuary," she said, her voice resonating with authority. "I am Kayla, leader of this cell. Aaron has spoken highly of you." Hayes introduced herself and her crew, explaining their encounter with the Salvatorians and their discovery of the artifact. Kayla listened intently, her expression growing more serious. "You have brought a powerful weapon to our doorstep," she said finally. "The artifact you possess is a fragment of an ancient defense system designed to repel the Salvatorians. It is both a blessing and a curse. They will stop at nothing to reclaim it." Hayes nodded. "We understand the risks, but with your help, we can repair our ship and perhaps use the artifact to turn the tide against the Salvatorians." Kayla considered this for a moment before nodding. Very well, we will help you. In return, you will join our cause. Together, we might stand a chance against the Empire. The next few days were a flurry of activity. The Endeavor's crew worked alongside the Lyrans, repairing the ship and upgrading its systems with advanced Lyran technology. Dr. Thorne collaborated with Lyran scientists to better understand the artifact, uncovering its full potential and limitations. Trust between the humans and Lyrans grew as they shared their stories and skills. Lieutenant Donovan trained with Lyran warriors, learning new combat techniques, while Ensign Liu exchanged tactical strategies with their counterparts. As the repairs neared completion, Hayes and Kayla strategized their next move. They knew the Salvatorians would not rest until they found the artifact, and a confrontation was inevitable. But now, they had a fighting chance, a glimmer of hope in the darkness. Hayes stood on the bridge of the Endeavor, looking out at the stars. "We set out to explore the unknown," she said quietly, more to herself than anyone else. "Now, we've found allies and a cause worth fighting for. Let's make sure it counts." With the Endeavor ready and the alliance with the Lyrans solidified, the stage was set for the next chapter in their battle against the Salvatorian Empire. The fight for freedom had only just begun. The bond between the Endeavor crew and the Lyran rebels deepened as they continued to work together. Days turned into weeks as they exchanged knowledge and prepared for the inevitable confrontation with the Salvatorians. In the makeshift training grounds within the Lyran enclave, Lieutenant Donovan and a group of human soldiers trained alongside Lyran warriors. The Lyrans were agile and swift, their combat techniques emphasizing fluidity and precision. Donovan, a seasoned soldier herself, found their methods intriguing and adopted some of their tactics into her own repertoire. "Again," barked Ryler, a Lyran combat instructor, as he demonstrated a series of rapid strikes with a sleek, glowing blade. "You must be faster, more precise. The Salvatorians show no mercy." Donovan wiped sweat from her brow and mimicked his movements, her muscles aching from the intense training. "Understood," she replied, her determination unwavering. "We need to be ready for anything." Meanwhile, in the Endeavor's lab, Dr. Thorne and a team of Lyran scientists, including the brilliant but eccentric Lyran physicist Leora, studied the artifact. They had discovered that it was not just a power source, but also a potential key to unlocking other ancient technologies scattered throughout the galaxy. "This artifact," Leora explained, her eyes glowing with excitement, "is part of a network of devices created by a long-extinct civilization. They were guardians, designed to protect against threats like the Salvatorians. If we can find and activate more of these artifacts, we might stand a real chance." Thorne nodded, absorbing the information. "We need to locate these other artifacts, but first we must ensure our immediate survival." The shared experiences and mutual respect between the humans and Lyrans fostered a sense of camaraderie. Meals were shared, stories exchanged, and plans laid out. Captain Hayes and Kayla spent long hours strategizing, their conversations often stretching late into the night. "We've identified several key targets," Kayla said, pointing to a holographic map of the Salvatorian-controlled sectors. "Strategic outposts and supply lines. Hitting these could cripple their operations and buy us time." Hayes studied the map, her mind racing with possibilities. "Agreed. But we need to be careful. Any misstep could bring their full wrath upon us." The training, planning, and cooperation culminated in a series of successful raids against Salvatorian outposts. The combined human and Lyran forces struck swiftly and decisively, utilizing their new tactics and advanced technology. Each victory bolstered their confidence and weakened the Salvatorian grip on the galaxy. The attack came without warning. The Salvatorian ships emerged from hyperspace, their weapons already firing upon the asteroid base. Alarms blared throughout the enclave as the rebels scrambled to defend themselves. "All hands to battle stations," Captain Hayes shouted, her voice echoing through the Endeavor. The ship sprang to life, its crew rushing to their posts. Outside, the battle was fierce. Salvatorian warships, sleek and deadly, unleashed torrents of energy blasts. The Lyran defenders, though outnumbered, fought back with tenacity and ingenuity, utilizing the asteroid field for cover and launching surprise attacks from hidden positions. The Endeavour, now fully repaired and upgraded with Lyran technology, joined the fray. Its newly enhanced weapons cut through Salvatorian ships with precision, the artifact's power amplifying their destructive capability. "Target their lead ship," Hayes ordered, her eyes fixed on the view screen. "We need to take out their command structure." The Endeavour maneuvered through the chaotic battlefield, dodging enemy fire and returning it with devastating accuracy. Lieutenant Donovan coordinated the ship's defenses, her quick reflexes and tactical acumen keeping them one step ahead of the attackers. On the ground, Kayla led a group of Lyran warriors in a desperate defense of the Enclave's main control center. The Salvatorians had deployed ground troops, and the fighting was brutal. Blaster fire and explosions filled the air as the rebels fought to repel the invaders. In the midst of the chaos, Dr. Thorne and Leora worked frantically in the lab, attempting to harness the artifact's power to turn the tide of battle. "We need to stabilize the energy output," Thorne muttered, his hands flying over the controls. "If we can channel it through the ship's main weapons array, we might have a chance." Leora nodded, her face set in grim determination. "I'm on it. Just keep those Salvatorians off our backs." Despite their efforts, the situation grew dire. The Salvatorians' superior numbers and firepower began to overwhelm the defenders. The Enclave's defenses faltered, and it seemed as though defeat was inevitable. Then, at the critical moment, the Endeavour's main weapon, supercharged by the artifact, fired a concentrated beam of energy. It sliced through the lead Salvatorian ship, causing a massive explosion that sent shockwaves through the enemy fleet. "Direct hit!" shouted Ensign Liu, his voice filled with exhilaration. "Their command ship is down!" The loss of their command ship threw the Salvatorian fleet into disarray. Seizing the opportunity, the Lyran and human forces launched a coordinated counterattack, driving the invaders back. Admiral Calros, realizing the battle was lost, ordered a retreat. The Salvatorian ships pulled back, disappearing into the void from which they had come. The Lyran enclave was saved, but the cost had been high. As the smoke cleared and the immediate threat passed, Captain Hayes and Kayla surveyed the battlefield. The victory was bittersweet, with many brave souls lost. But the alliance had held, and they had proven that they could stand against the might of the Salvatorian Empire. "We did it," Kayla said quietly, her eyes reflecting the mix of relief and sorrow that weighed on her heart. Hayes nodded. "Yes, but this is just the beginning. The Salvatorians will return, and we need to be ready." In the aftermath of the battle, the Endeavour and the Lyran Enclave focused on rebuilding and fortifying their defenses. Repairs were swift but challenging, given the damage sustained during the Salvatorian assault. The artifact had once again proved its worth, but its true potential and origins remained a mystery. Dr. Thorne and Leora, driven by their recent success, delved deeper into the artifact's secrets. They worked tirelessly in the lab, analyzing ancient texts and data recovered from the Lyran archives. One evening, as they cross-referenced a particularly old manuscript with the artifact's energy readings, a breakthrough occurred. "Look at this," Leora said, her voice barely a whisper as she pointed to a section of the manuscript. "These symbols match the energy patterns we've been seeing." Thorne leaned in, his eyes scanning the text. "These aren't just symbols. They're coordinates." Excitedly, they presented their findings to Captain Hayes and Kayla. The coordinates pointed to a distant star system, one that had been shrouded in myth and legend. It was said to be the location of a vast repository of ancient technology, created by the same civilization that had made the artifact. "This could be the key to turning the tide against the Salvatorians," Thorne explained. "If we can find and activate more of these artifacts, we could harness a power great enough to challenge their entire fleet." Kayla nodded thoughtfully. "We must tread carefully. If the Salvatorians get wind of this, they'll stop at nothing to reach the repository first." Hayes agreed. "We'll need to assemble a small, stealthy team. This mission must remain top secret." A select group of Endeavour crew members and Lyran operatives were chosen for the mission. Among them were Hayes, Thorne, Donovan, and Aaron, whose knowledge of ancient lore would prove invaluable. The team prepared for departure, their hearts heavy with the knowledge of the dangers that lay ahead, but buoyed by the hope of a significant breakthrough. While the expedition team embarked on their journey to the distant star system, Captain Hayes and Kayla began a separate mission to rally support from other oppressed civilizations. The recent victories had inspired hope, but the alliance needed to grow if they were to stand a chance against the Salvatorians. Hayes and Kayla traveled to various star systems, meeting with leaders of different races. Their first stop was the war-torn planet of Zoronis, home to the fierce and proud Zoroni warriors. The planet's leader, Chief Torak, was initially skeptical of the human-Lyran alliance. "We've fought the Salvatorians for centuries," Torak said, his voice rough and filled with years of battle-hardened experience. "What makes you think your alliance can succeed where so many others have failed?" Hayes stepped forward, her eyes meeting Torak's with unwavering determination. "Because we bring not just strength, but unity. Together, we can combine our knowledge, our technologies, and our will to fight. We've already proven we can stand against them." Kayla added, "The Salvatorians fear us now. They know we're a threat. Join us, and we can strike fear into their hearts as well." After intense negotiations and demonstrations of the artifact's power, Chief Torak agreed to join the alliance. His warriors, skilled in ground combat and guerrilla tactics, would be a formidable addition to the growing coalition. The next destination was the vibrant, ocean-covered planet of Aquara, inhabited by the Aquarans, an amphibious race with advanced underwater technology. Their leader, Queen Serena, was intrigued by the prospect of an alliance, but needed assurance of mutual benefit. "Our technology is unique, and our people have always valued independence," Serena stated, her gaze serene but calculating. "How can we be sure that this alliance will respect our ways and contribute to our prosperity?" Hayes presented a plan to share technologies and resources, highlighting the mutual benefits of cooperation. "With your underwater technology and our combined military strength, we can protect your world and many others. We aim to preserve, not dominate." Kayla emphasized the moral imperative. "Together, we can ensure a future where no civilization must live under the shadow of the Salvatorians." Queen Serena, convinced by their sincerity and the strategic advantages, agreed to join the alliance. The Aquarans' underwater expertise and unique technologies would greatly enhance the coalition's capabilities. As they continued their journey, Hayes and Kayla visited numerous worlds, from the desert planet of Draxor, with its resourceful and hardy inhabitants, to the lush forests of Alara, home to a reclusive but technologically advanced society of scholars and scientists. Each meeting was a delicate dance of diplomacy, persuasion, and shared vision. Every new ally brought their own strengths and knowledge to the coalition, creating a diverse and powerful force united by a common goal to defeat the Salvatorian Empire and ensure a future of freedom and cooperation. As the alliance solidified and preparations for the final assault on the Salvatorian stronghold advanced, not everyone within the ranks was fully committed to the cause. The pressure and stakes had grown immensely, and cracks began to form in the once unified coalition. During a routine strategy meeting, Captain Hayes, Kayla, and other key leaders were discussing the latest intelligence on Salvatorian fleet movements. The atmosphere was tense but focused. "We've identified a potential weak point in their defenses," Aaron pointed out, tracing a line on the holographic map. "If we strike here, we can disrupt their supply chain and weaken their outer defenses." Suddenly, an explosion rocked the base, sending everyone sprawling to the floor. Alarms blared and chaos erupted. Hayes scrambled to her feet, her ears ringing from the blast. "What's happening?" she shouted, trying to be heard over the din. Kayla's face was grim. "We're under attack, but this isn't a direct assault, it's sabotage." The realization hit them all at once. There was a traitor in their midst. Hayes quickly gathered a team to assess the damage and hunt down the saboteur. Dr. Thorne and Leora rushed to the lab, fearing for the artifact's safety. They found the lab in disarray, but the artifact was intact, protected by a reinforced containment field. "Thank goodness," Thorne muttered. If the artifact had been damaged, we could have lost everything. Meanwhile, Lieutenant Donovan and a group of Lyran warriors began a systematic search of the base. They moved swiftly through the corridors, checking every corner and securing critical points. As they reached the communications room, they found evidence of tampering. Someone had been sending encrypted messages to the Salvatorians. Whoever did this had access to our highest-level communications, Donovan said, her eyes narrowing. This is someone we trusted. After hours of intense investigation, they uncovered the traitor, a high-ranking officer named Commander Vex, who had been secretly working for the Salvatorians. Vex was captured and brought before the leaders of the Alliance. Why? Hayes demanded, her voice filled with a mixture of anger and disbelief. Why would you betray us? Vex's eyes were cold and defiant. You don't understand. The Salvatorians are too powerful. Fighting them is suicide. I was trying to save us all. Kayla's expression hardened. By selling us out to the enemy, you've cost us valuable time and lives. Your actions are inexcusable. Vex was taken away, and the Alliance leaders regrouped, their resolve even stronger. They couldn't afford any more setbacks. With the traitor dealt with, they redoubled their efforts to prepare for the impending battle. With the betrayal behind them and security tightened, the coalition focused on the imminent assault on the Salvatorian stronghold. The strategic outposts had been hit successfully, weakening the enemy's supply lines and defenses. Morale was high, but the anticipation of the final confrontation weighed heavily on everyone. Captain Hayes stood on the bridge of the Endeavor, overlooking the fleet assembled for the assault. Ships from various allied worlds filled the space around them, each ready to contribute to the fight. All systems are operational, reported Lieutenant Donovan. The fleet is assembled and ready to move on your command, Captain. Hayes nodded, taking a deep breath. Send the signal. It's time. The signal was sent, and the fleet began to move. As they approached the Salvatorian stronghold, the enormity of the task ahead became clear. The enemy's defenses were formidable, with layers of shielded satellites, massive warships, and heavily fortified space stations. On board the Endeavor, Dr. Thorne and Leora were in the lab, making final adjustments to the artifact. They had discovered a way to amplify its power to create a temporary but powerful energy shield that could protect the fleet during the initial assault. This is it, Thorne said, his voice steady but tinged with anticipation. Once we activate the artifact, there's no turning back. Leora nodded. We need to time it perfectly. If we succeed, it will give our forces the edge they need. As the fleet closed in on the stronghold, the Salvatorian defenses sprang to life. Swarms of enemy fighters and massive warships moved to intercept the Allied forces. The battle began in earnest, with explosions lighting up the void of space. Activate the artifact, Hayes ordered, her eyes fixed on the unfolding battle. Thorne and Leora initiated the sequence, and the artifact's glow intensified, enveloping the Endeavor and the surrounding ships in a shimmering energy shield. The shield absorbed the initial barrage of enemy fire, allowing the Allied fleet to press forward. Shield holding, reported Ensign Liu. We're taking heavy fire, but it's holding. The Allied ships pushed through the outer defenses, their weapons blazing. They targeted key enemy installations and warships, using the intelligence gathered during their raids to strike critical points. The coordination and determination of the diverse fleet began to show results. Amidst the chaos, Admiral Calros, the Salvatorian commander, watched from his command ship, his face twisted with anger as he realized the humans and their allies were breaking through. "Increase firepower," Calros barked. "Do not let them breach our defenses." But the Allied fleet, bolstered by the artifact's power and their shared resolve, continued their relentless assault. The Endeavor, at the forefront of the attack, unleashed devastating energy blasts, cutting through Salvatorian ships and installations. As the battle raged on, Hayes knew they were nearing a decisive moment. The stronghold's main power core was within reach, and its destruction would cripple the Salvatorian defenses. "All ships, focus fire on the central power core," Hayes commanded. "This is our chance to end this." The fleet converged on the power core, unleashing a concentrated barrage. The core's shields flickered under the relentless assault, and finally, with a massive explosion, it detonated, sending shockwaves through the enemy's defenses. The Salvatorian fleet, now in disarray, began to retreat. The Allied forces pressed their advantage, securing the stronghold and turning the tide of the war. As the dust settled and the remaining Salvatorian ships fled, a cheer erupted across the Allied fleet. The stronghold had fallen, and the Salvatorian Empire had suffered a crippling blow. Hayes stood on the bridge, her heart swelling with pride and relief. "We did it," she said softly, looking at her crew. "We actually did it." The final battle had been won, but the war was not yet over. The Salvatorians would regroup and retaliate, but for now, the coalition had proven that unity and determination could stand against tyranny. With the stronghold secured, the path to liberation had become clearer. The Allies prepared for the next phase of their campaign, ready to push forward and free the galaxy from Salvatorian domination. Captain Hayes and Kayla knew that a direct assault would be suicidal. Instead, they planned a covert operation to infiltrate the palace, disable the defenses, and pave the way for the Allied fleet to launch a full-scale invasion. A select team was assembled for this critical mission, including Hayes, Thorne, Donovan, Aaron, and a few elite Lyran operatives. Disguised as a Salvatorian supply ship, the team would slip past the outer defenses and land near the capital city. As the Endeavour approached Zalva Prime, the tension was palpable. The planet loomed large on the view screen, its surface glittering with the lights of countless cities and military installations. "Approaching designated coordinates," Donovan reported, her hands steady on the controls. "We'll be entering their airspace in 5 minutes." Hayes took a deep breath. "Remember, this is a stealth mission. Avoid any unnecessary engagements. We get in, disable the defenses, and get out." The disguised ship descended through the atmosphere, navigating through the dense air traffic around the capital. They landed in a secluded area near the palace, hidden from the prying eyes of Salvatorian patrols. Under the cover of night, the team made their way toward the palace, using underground tunnels and maintenance shafts to avoid detection. The air was thick with tension as they moved silently through the shadows. Inside the palace, the corridors were heavily guarded, but Aaron's knowledge of ancient Salvatorian architecture proved invaluable. They navigated the labyrinthine passages, avoiding patrols and security cameras. Finally, they reached the central command center, a massive chamber filled with consoles and holographic displays. Guards stood at attention, their eyes scanning the room for any signs of trouble. "We need a distraction," Hayes whispered. "Aaron, can you create a diversion?" Aaron nodded and moved to a nearby control panel, hacking into the palace's security systems. Moments later, alarms blared throughout the palace, and the guards rushed to investigate the false alert. With the command center momentarily deserted, the team slipped inside. Dr. Thorne and Leora quickly went to work on the main control console, their fingers flying over the controls as they disabled the planetary defenses. "Almost there," Thorne muttered, his face illuminated by the flickering screens. "Just a few more seconds." Outside, the alarms continued to blare, but the guards were starting to return, realizing the diversion was a ruse. Donovan and the Lyran operatives took up defensive positions, ready to hold off any attackers. "Got it!" Thorne exclaimed, as the last system went offline. "The defenses are down." "Let's move," Hayes ordered. "We need to get out of here before they realize what we've done." The team retraced their steps through the palace, dodging patrols and security measures. The alarms had heightened the guards' alertness, making their escape even more perilous. As they reached the outskirts of the capital, their way was blocked by a squad of Salvatorian soldiers. A fierce firefight erupted, with blaster fire illuminating the night. Donovan and the Lyrans fought bravely, holding off the soldiers long enough for the rest of the team to reach their extraction point. The disguised ship lifted off, barely escaping the pursuing Salvatorian fighters. As they broke through the atmosphere, Hayes breathed a sigh of relief. The mission had been a success, but not without cost. Several of their team members had been injured in the escape, and the strain of the operation weighed heavily on them all. "Allied fleet, this is Captain Hayes," she transmitted. "The planetary defenses are down. You are clear to begin the assault." With the defenses of Zalva Prime disabled, the Allied fleet launched a massive assault on the heart of the Salvatorian Empire. Ships from countless civilizations filled the space above the planet, their weapons blazing as they engaged the remaining Salvatorian forces. On the bridge of the Endeavour, Captain Hayes coordinated the attack. "Focus fire on their capital ships. We need to take out their command structure." The battle was fierce and chaotic. The Salvatorians, though caught off guard, fought with the ferocity of a cornered beast. Massive warships clashed in the void, exchanging devastating volleys of fire. Smaller fighters weaved through the fray, their agility making them deadly opponents. In the midst of the chaos, Admiral Calros rallied his forces. "Do not let them breach our defenses. Fight with everything you have." The Endeavour led the charge, its weapons powered by the artifact, which now hummed with a resonant energy. The ship's energy beams cut through Salvatorian ships like a hot knife through butter, clearing a path for the Allied forces. "Enemy command ship in range," Ensign Liu reported, his voice steady despite the intensity of the battle. "Targeting their main reactor. Fire at will," Hayes ordered, her eyes locked on the view screen. The Endeavour unleashed a barrage of energy blasts, striking the enemy command ship's reactor. A series of explosions rippled through the vessel, culminating in a massive detonation that sent debris flying in all directions. "Command ship destroyed," Donovan confirmed. "Their fleet is in disarray." The loss of their command ship threw the Salvatorian fleet into chaos. The Allied forces pressed their advantage, targeting key installations and crippling the enemy's ability to coordinate their defenses. On the surface of Zalva Prime, ground forces from the coalition landed and engaged the Salvatorian troops. The battle raged in the streets of the capital city, with resistance fighters and Allied soldiers fighting side by side against the Imperial forces. Amidst the ground assault, Captain Hayes, Lieutenant Donovan, and a select team made their way to the Imperial Palace. They fought their way through the opulent halls, determined to confront Emperor Zorath and end his reign of terror. In the throne room, Zorath awaited them, his eyes blazing with fury and defiance. "You dare to challenge me in my own palace?" he snarled. "You will pay for your insolence." Hayes stepped forward, her blaster raised. "Your empire is falling, Zorath. Surrender now, and we can end this without further bloodshed." Zorath laughed, a cold, cruel sound. "Surrender? To you? Never!" He raised his hands, and a wave of energy surged toward the team. Hayes and her companions dodged the blast, returning fire as they advanced. The battle was intense, with Zorath wielding ancient Salvatorian powers against them. Thorn, realizing the danger, activated the artifact, channeling its energy through the team's weapons. The enhanced firepower allowed them to break through Zorath's defenses, but the Emperor fought on, his rage fueling his strength. In a final, desperate move, Hayes and Donovan coordinated their attacks, striking Zorath from multiple angles. The combined assault overwhelmed him, and with a final, defiant scream, the Emperor fell, his body crumpling to the ground. The throne room fell silent, the echoes of battle fading away. Hayes lowered her blaster, her heart pounding in her chest. "It's over," she said softly, more to herself than anyone else. "We've won." The news of Zorath's defeat spread quickly, and the remaining Salvatorian forces began to surrender. The coalition forces secured the palace and the capital, ensuring that the Empire's grip on the galaxy was finally broken. As the dust settled and the victors surveyed the battlefield, a sense of relief and triumph filled the air. The war had been long and brutal, but now, at last, there was hope for a future free from tyranny. Hayes stood on the balcony of the Imperial Palace, looking out over the liberated city. "This is just the beginning," she said quietly. "There's still so much to rebuild, so many lives to mend. But today, we've taken the first step toward a brighter future." The Allied forces began the arduous task of restoring order and rebuilding the shattered worlds. With the Salvatorian Empire defeated, a new era of cooperation and peace was on the horizon, one that would be forged by the unity and determination of countless civilizations coming together to stand against oppression. The fall of Zalva Prime marked a significant victory for the coalition, but Emperor Zorath's escape left a shadow over their triumph. Intelligence reports indicated that Zorath had retreated to a hidden fortress deep within the perilous Nebula of Shadows, a region known for its treacherous space anomalies and dense obscuring clouds. Determined to end the threat once and for all, Captain Hayes and Kayla assembled a strike team. The Endeavor, accompanied by a few of the Coalition's best ships, navigated the hazardous nebula, their sensors straining to penetrate the murky void. "Stay sharp," Hayes warned her crew as the Endeavor ventured deeper into the nebula. "Zorath won't go down without a fight." After hours of tense navigation, the fortress came into view, a massive, dark structure pulsating with eerie energy. The team knew that the final confrontation with Zorath would be the most dangerous mission they had undertaken. Inside the fortress, Zorath prepared his defenses. Dark, shadowy figures, elite Salvatorian guards infused with ancient power, patrolled the corridors. The air crackled with malevolent energy as Zorath drew upon the full extent of his abilities, ready to crush the intruders. The Endeavor's strike team infiltrated the fortress under the cover of its energy dampeners. Lieutenant Donovan led the ground assault, her team moving swiftly and silently through the dark halls. They encountered fierce resistance, the elite guards proving to be formidable opponents. Blaster fire and the clash of weapons echoed through the fortress. "Press forward," Donovan shouted, her voice unwavering despite the intensity of the battle. "We need to reach the control room and disable their defenses." As they fought their way deeper into the fortress, Hayes and Thorne split off to find Zorath. Guided by the artifact, they navigated the labyrinthine corridors, finally reaching a massive chamber filled with ancient technology and pulsating energy. Zorath stood at the center, his eyes glowing with an unearthly light. "You are fools to come here," he snarled, his voice reverberating with power. "This is where you meet your end." Hayes raised her blaster, her resolve unshaken. "Your reign of terror ends today, Zorath. The galaxy will be free from your tyranny." The battle that followed was intense and brutal. Zorath wielded dark energy, his attacks filled with raw power and fury. Hayes and Thorne fought with everything they had, the artifact amplifying their strength and abilities. The chamber shook with the force of their clash, energy beams and blasts of power illuminating the darkness. Despite Zorath's formidable abilities, the combined efforts of Hayes and Thorne began to wear him down. Thorne used the artifact to disrupt Zorath's energy, creating openings for Hayes to strike. The battle reached its peak as Hayes, with a final, desperate move, unleashed a concentrated blast from the artifact, striking Zorath directly. The Emperor screamed in agony, his form disintegrating under the assault. With a final, thunderous explosion, Zorath was no more. The fortress trembled and began to collapse, the dark energy that sustained it dissipating. "Let's get out of here," Hayes shouted, grabbing Thorne as they sprinted towards the exit. They regrouped with Donovan's team, fighting their way back to the extraction point. The Endeavor and the Coalition ships provided covering fire, holding off the remaining defenders as the strike team made their escape. The fortress imploded, the dark energy collapsing in on itself, leaving nothing but debris and silence in its wake. The Endeavor and its companions emerged from the nebula, battered but victorious. With the death of Emperor Zorath and the destruction of his hidden fortress, the Salvatorian Empire's grip on the galaxy was shattered. News of the Emperor's demise spread rapidly, igniting hope and rebellion across the oppressed worlds. The Coalition forces moved quickly to capitalize on their victory. They liberated one planet after another, dismantling the remnants of the Salvatorian military and restoring freedom to countless civilizations. Each world they freed joined the growing alliance, contributing resources and support to the cause. Captain Hayes and the crew of the Endeavor became symbols of the resistance, their bravery and determination inspiring others to fight for their freedom. The once fragmented coalition solidified into a unified force, their shared goal driving them forward. On the liberated planet of Zoronis, a grand assembly was held to celebrate the victories and plan for the future. Leaders from across the galaxy gathered, their diverse cultures and backgrounds united by the common cause. Kayla addressed the assembly, her voice filled with pride and hope. "We have proven that unity is our greatest strength. Together, we have defeated an empire that seemed invincible. Now we must work together to build a future where freedom and cooperation are the foundations of our galaxy. Hayes stood alongside Kayla, looking out at the sea of faces. This is not the end, but the beginning of a new era. We have shown that tyranny can be overcome, and that the light of freedom can shine even in the darkest of times. Dr. Thorne and Leora continued their work on the artifact, now studying its potential to rebuild and enhance rather than destroy. They shared their knowledge with the Coalition, ensuring that the advanced technology would be used to benefit all, not just a select few. The liberated worlds began to rebuild, their people finally able to live without fear of oppression. Trade and communication flourished, and the galaxy entered a period of unprecedented cooperation and growth. The Coalition established a council to govern the newly freed territories, ensuring that all voices were heard and represented. As the years passed, the memory of the Salvatorian Empire faded, replaced by a legacy of resilience and unity. The story of the Endeavor and its allies became legend, a beacon of hope for future generations. Captain Hayes, now an esteemed leader within the Coalition, reflected on their journey. We started as explorers, thrust into a conflict we never expected. But through courage, unity, and determination, we forged a new path. The galaxy is free, and our future is bright. The Endeavor, once a lone starship venturing into the unknown, now stood as a symbol of the enduring spirit of humanity and its allies. The Coalition continued to explore and expand, guided by the principles of peace and cooperation. In the end, the greatest victory was not the defeat of an empire, but the birth of a new era where freedom, unity, and hope reigned supreme. The galaxy, once fractured and oppressed, now shone brightly with the promise of a future shaped by the collective strength and vision of its diverse inhabitants.